Welcome to part 6 of the Better Swimmer series. I told you about this moment a year ago where I was like, God, I'd love some calmer waters. And he said, how about I make you a better swimmer? Now, we've been through so much transformation through the other 5 parts up to this point. And what we covered today is going to keep you in the place that you can actually run through the tape of this moment in your choppy waters. If you miss what we cover today, then you miss what will help you finish the last part of the race. You know what it's like if you've ever done any kind of long endurance races, you think when you get to those last 2 miles what it's going to feel like because you've already done so much. And actually those last 2 feel like half the race. It's so difficult. Now there is a time, like we've talked about in this journey up to this point, to throw elbows, to fight for that blessing, to receive that next breath, to be in prison and keep your eyes on upgrading the skill. But there's also a time when you're in the midst of the choppy waters and the winds are swirling around and the waves are rolling so high for you to flip around and lay on your back. Even in the midst of all the choppy waters, just learn to float with those waves. If you don't do that, you're never going to learn what this 6th lesson is, which is to recover under pressure. So I'm going to walk you through what it means to become a better swimmer. Part 6 here, recover under pressure. When you learn how to turn around and flip on your back in a long, big swim, you can take a break for a moment. You can recover. The pressure is still there. The waves are still there. The wind is still there. But you can catch your breath. You can recover. You can renew. You can almost picture like 2 martial arts warriors, and they're both fighting. And then a train passes through in between them. One paces back and forth, exhausting themselves. The other one sits down cross-legged and renews while the train is going by. The train passes. That warrior stands up, rested, ready to go. That's what we want to cover today. Now, to cover this, it's to create space in our lives, just like we would do with sleep, where your mind is distilling and reconciling things. What does it mean for you when you're in a place that you've got so many doubts? You're wrestling God like Jacob. You're in the stomach bile like Jonah. You're sinking in front of your friends like Peter. What does it mean to be in a place where you can actually recover? You know, we talk about things so much in terms of understanding narratives in today's world or worldviews. And we notice how much algorithms shape what we're going through. There was a video recently of a Gen Z woman crying about going to work. And because people aren't recovering under pressure, they just automatically, in the choppy waters of this woman's life, read in what they see. So some people watched this video of a Gen Z woman crying about work and said, look at that. That generation is so soft. And you might find yourself thinking that way. But other people looked at it and said, you know what? And from a traditional perspective, she'd be happier at home. She doesn't want to go to work, so she shouldn't have to. Other people looked at it and said, this is why work from home is so important. Going to the office sucks. No matter where you find yourself as a leader, you are in places where the swirl of the orientation that most people are looking for is occurring, and they haven't found the center that you found. They're still succumbing to all the ideologies, all the ways they cripple their imagination, all the ways they get stuck in dogmatism. I want to be the kind of person who lives with faith, who lives with conviction, who has a sharp mind. How do I do that? I recover under pressure. It keeps me from falling into the trap of seeing everything the way that I would see it out of my insecurity, like this example with this story of this woman who was crying about work. I can see everybody and how they're seeing it, and then choose for myself where I'm at and what I see. If you don't take what I'm about to give you here in this lesson, you will fall into a pattern in the choppy waters where your relationship with God deteriorates and you deconstruct, but you never reconstruct. Too many Christians have popularized in today's world what it means to deconstruct. Like Peter, they've sunk to the bottom of the water, and they're talking about their story like it's finished and they haven't yet been rescued. All of us go through a season where how we see the world starts to fall apart. We look at the Gen Z woman crying about work and we're convinced our reality is true. But once we actually value our mind and value faith and value what it means to move forward, recovering under the pressure, we start to see that the work isn't done. When we deconstruct, we actually emerge over time more whole. Do I still believe the same way that I believed before the periods of deconstruction I've been through? Absolutely not. I think differently about them. I look at the video and I go, well, that's what I think now. Here's what I'm saying to you. There is a poem in Scripture that teaches us exactly what to do when all the narratives are breaking, when the ideologies are falling apart and people don't know how to process things. And not only is it a powerful poem for everyone, it's a powerful poem for you. When you're in the choppy waters and you start to find yourself lost and tossed about, flip on your back and appreciate this poem and what it's going to give you. So I'm going to read directly to you from this poem out of Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And like I've been saying, or like I said in the intro of this series, go read all these stories for yourself. Wrestle with them yourself and check them out. Here's the poem, verse 15, Ecclesiastes chapter 7. In this meaningless life of mine, I have seen both of these, the righteous perishing in their righteousness, and the wickedness living in their wickedness. Do not be over righteous, neither be over wise. Why destroy yourself? Do not be over wicked, and do not be a fool. Why die before your time? Now, what the poem here is comparing is really what it means to be in extremes, we could say. So people are in extremes. They're viewing events, and in the extremes of their ideologies, they are in their own prisons, wearing themselves out and exhausted. And we all do this. Should you sit down at your desk and develop a strategic plan, or should you walk around and be with the people? It's both. Should you enjoy life and do, so to speak, in this poem, what the wicked are doing to really enjoy, or should you live with this righteousness and wisdom? Well, both. Here's what I mean. Verse 18, it is good to grasp one and not let go of the other. Hold them both. Whoever fears God will avoid all extremes. Here's what happens for the person that emerges out of a choppy water season and learns how to recover under the pressure. They flip on their back and they start to see how their own narratives and ideologies and worldviews are breaking. They're going through their own deconstruction. How the other people around them may be experiencing this same thing. And they do exactly what Ecclesiastes says. They don't try to have a thought or an opinion that just says, well, got this figured out. They grasp both. All of the wisdom that you need in the choppy water seasons exists between the polarity of two opposites. When those paradoxes emerge of, hey, I was in a season where I was substitute teaching just to get cash for the day to try to take care of my family. I ended up also applying for a job at night, working morning and night. I ended up not taking that job in faith that I didn't want to compromise the value of being gone at night. And I'm so glad I didn't. Yet the circumstances would say that I should do that. You have to find the still small voice within, the guidance that you need, so that when you are in the polarities of opposites, you find the wise way forward. You don't grasp one and let go of the other. Because out of an awe of God, which is what it meant to fear God, an awe of God who put together the whole world, male and female, God created them. God isn't male or female, right? God reveals his Father, Son, Spirit. But when we think of God, God is so big. He holds all polarities. And that's where we find wisdom. Paul saying wild things like everything's permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Paul was able to hold multiple perspectives in his mind. He said, some of you consider one day sacred more than another. Do what helps you. Don't cause your weaker brother to stumble. But he was showing us a way forward in wisdom where we can hold both extremes. I don't have to look at the video of the woman crying and have an ideology that has to be supported. I can see all the perspectives and find the wise path forward for me. Why? Because like Ecclesiastes, when everything feels meaningless. See, I turn over on my back and I go, man, I haven't caught my breath for a minute. What is going on? I recover under the pressure by I stop trying to figure everything out and wrestle everything down and have perfect understanding. And what do I do when I make space like that? You find 3 actions in the book of Ecclesiastes. Study it for yourself that you'll see over and over happens when you don't try to grasp one, but you hold both and you grow through the paradox of opposites. When all feels meaningless and you need to rest, first thing that the poem of Ecclesiastes teaches is to work with purpose. You figure out a way to do what you do with purpose. Without purpose, it's all going to feel meaningless. You find how to do work that you enjoy. It's straight up in the poem. Read it for yourself. Second, you relate with perspective. You enjoy relationships because you're not in this place anymore, that you're having to make it fit your worldview, your ideology. You see people for where they are and you feel love for them, no matter where they find themselves. Like in the story of the Lord of the Rings, where Frodo says, I wish Bilbo would have killed the character Smeagol, and Frodo is counseled, basically, would you be the one to make these kind of decisions? Can you have pity on this character that's developed? You relate with perspective, whether it's your enemies that you learn to pray for, still have healthy boundaries, or the people that you're deepening a relationship with where you currently might find yourself more irritated and frustrated than fascinated at who they are. The poem of Ecclesiastes would teach us to relate with perspective. So we work with purpose, we relate with perspective, and we also taste with passion. We savor the flavor. Ecclesiastes affirms that when we spin over and float on our back for a minute, we can appreciate good food, good drink, being merry. And this helps us. It helps us enjoy. It helps us rest. It helps us recover. And if we don't learn how to recover under pressure, we'll never finish the process of becoming a better swimmer. May you find, wherever your paradoxical opposites are, the ability to hold both, find the wise action forward, and recover under the pressure.